Welcome back, everybody. I'm Davin Chitwood, the sales executive here at Kirkham Iron Tech, and with our founder and CEO, Tom Kirkham. And today we have a question that it's a phrase that we use often, but some of you may question, well, what does that mean? And so, Tom, what do you really mean by the phrase best in class? We use it all the time. Help us out.
Yeah, this is one of those phrases that I use. You'll hear me use it so much you'll get sick of it. And then someone that's non-technical that's in the company say, I don't know if everybody really understands what you mean by that.
Mm.
So what I'm really talking about is you want to select when you're talking about products, or I like to, from a security standpoint, I like to, use the phrase technical controls. There's three types of controls: administrative, technical, and physical controls when it comes to security. So what we do, because our company does best practices, that's an administrative
best in
control.
class.
We're going to talk about that. But in our selection process, we want to see research or experience a product that works so well that either Gartner or MITRE ATT&CK or one of these independent third-party testing and evaluation companies, and there's some out there that are totally independent. I mean, they're not buying the review, right? Where they've actually verified it and they got the statistics, and Gartner, in their case, they've got the magic quadrant, and anything, there's 4 boxes inside of a box, and whatever's in the upper right is what you want to get. And that's why we use Sentinel One. Now, there's others in that box, right? But our experience has been that Sentinel One has never failed us. So we're reluctant to change. Now, there's others in that box, like CrowdStrike, that I would say is best in class. And then it gets down to, here's the big thing about best in class. It might be different if you're the chief information security officer at your company and you don't outsource anything, which that's getting to be less and less, because, as we've talked about before, it's often much more cost effective and often better to outsource. But having said that, what may be a best in class technical control or product for your company may not be a best in class product for an MSSP. For example, Windows Defender, in conjunction with Huntress EDR, which we're a Huntress partner, we love Huntress, has a centralized management platform for Microsoft Defender. Now, you could bump it up a notch and pay for Microsoft Defender. I think it's called APT. I guess it stands for Advanced Persistent Threat. And they've got a centralized management console, which would be great if it's for your company. It's not best in class for us because it doesn't allow for multi-tenant capabilities. What do I mean by multi-tenant? Multi-tenant means if we were to use Microsoft Defender APT or whatever it's called, we would have to log out and log back into yet another account to manage each of our clients. That has an impact on our ability to respond. It's got an impact on our productivity. It's got an impact on efficiency.
Yes.
So for us, it's not best in class, but for your company, it might be. Okay. So that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that we're not putting the right stuff in, because if you've watched any of my videos, you know that you've got to have skilled security people on call, monitoring, managing, and responding and mitigating security events. So if you've already got to have a security team on call, and the vast majority of anyone listening to this is not going to have it on staff, they're going to outsource it. That requires that MSSP to have a multi-tenant management console, monitoring console, or SOC, a security operations center. Same thing with a NOC, a network operations center. If you're talking IT management, you've got a NOC, and security, you got a SOC. But I hope that clears up what I mean by best in class. It's not I was reading a Reddit thing just this morning where an IT provider was asking, is Defender good enough?
Mhm.
And he was concerned about the price of Bitdefender being $1 an endpoint. Well, that immediately means they're not a best in class service provider.
Mhm.
He's more concerned about price than security. And incidentally, uh, even Sentinel One, it doesn't take much volume to get
Oh, yeah.
almost as cheap as $1. So, I mean, but that's not what the client's paying for. The client's paying for the mitigation, the response, the investigation,
The
the
experience from
analysis,
that team.
the configuration, the deployment, because none of these controls work flawlessly if they're not professionally configured and deploy for that particular risk environment. Okay.
Yeah.
Different environments require us to configure Sentinel One different ways. So if you take the assumption, just to kind of summarize here, if you take the assumption you already got to have a skilled security team
Mhm.
by your side, and if it's outsourced, then they need a best-in-class product that is multi-tenant. Did I get in the weeds too much there, Devin?
No, I think that's good. And that does help us in another episode we're going to do of how to pick your MSP or how to pick your cybersecurity provider. Because when we talk about that in the webinar, we're going to talk about they have to have these best in class tools. And if they're not, clearly they're not best of the best regarding their MSP or security provider, IT provider. And so, no, I think that was perfect.
Yeah, we've never come across a product that there wasn't an alternative. I mean, we never come across a product that's best in class. And there's more than one best in class generally.
Yes.
I guess I should say I've never come across a product that's best in class that was the only in class.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's trade-offs to everything.
Hmm.
You run a business, you're doing risk analysis all the time, constantly. But it would be an interesting dilemma if maybe there's a brand new technical threat that no one's ever seen before. It's got to have a different tool and different administrative controls, and we have to find something quick. It may happen someday.
Hmm.
But generally speaking, in our industry, they recognize that they got to have skilled IT people running their tools and skilled InfoSec people running their tools. So they're going to make it multi-tenant.
Yeah.
And I would dare say that if it's not multi-tenant capable, you might really want to think, is this best in class?
Yeah.
Because if you're not selling, what is there, 60,000 managed IT service providers in the country, and I don't know how many InfoSec, probably 10, at least 10 or 5 to 10,000. There's a lot fewer of those than there are MSPs. But if you're talking to your IT company and he's saying Bitdefender is the best, or we just use Microsoft Defender, it does pretty good against most stuff.
Most stuff not going to cut it.
That's not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I was amazed where one of the responses in that subreddit to that question, it says, oh yeah, Microsoft Defender APT works. Well, I don't know if I can't remember the exact quote, but it works great except against ransomware. Well, that's
what
the
you're trying
number
to
one
stop.
threat out there.
Yes. Yes.
And so just because it works great, doesn't mean that's what you need.
Yes.
It'd be like, oh yeah, Jeep Wranglers are terrific. And said, well, I'm racing in Formula One. Well, that's not gonna it's not gonna work, right?
Yeah.
You need best in class vehicle for that style of racing. So I hope that I cleared that up. I probably beat
No,
that
yeah,
to
that was perfect. And to me, a takeaway you can have, and you talked about risk as a business owner or a CEO, the risk analysis and really your risk acceptance of what you're willing to, the risk you're willing to take on for maybe taking a not best in class tool. To me, I see it as, okay, you have a lock on your door, and a best in class lock for your front door would be a bolt lock, maybe a chain on top, and no one's usually breaking through that. But if you settle for anything less, it's basically like putting a twig to keep the door closed. And basically it's your door's wide open just because you wanted maybe to save a buck or you wanted to focus on convenience. But when you talk about security, those are things that you cannot settle for. You should only get best in class if you're taking the risk of cybersecurity for your business seriously.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. But if you all have any other questions, feel free to reach out. And if you have a specific topic that you want us to talk about, let us know and we'll make sure we add that to the list. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.